The airport lights were too bright for someone who hadn't eaten in 24 hours. Amara clutched her sleeping baby against her chest, whispering softly, "Almost there, little one. Just one more flight." The boarding line crept forward like a slow prayer. Her dress was faded, her shoes worn thin, and her eyes told stories of nights spent fighting the world alone. The passengers behind her sighed impatiently as her baby stirred, letting out a small cry. She bounced him gently, whispering lullabies only mothers who have known hunger could sing. When the flight attendant scanned her ticket, Amara held her breath. "Seat 14B, the woman said kindly. "Middle row." The man beside her looked expensive before she even saw his face. A tailored charcoal suit, leather shoes polished to a mirror, and an aura of quiet dominance that made the air feel colder. She muttered a polite sorry as her bag brushed his arm, but he didn't answer. He just glanced briefly, eyes sharp, amber under the cabin lights, and went back to typing on a sleek laptop. For the first hour, Amara tried to make herself invisible. Her son whimpered, the plane hummed, and the stranger beside her didn't move, not even once. His posture was perfect, his expression unreadable. When the turbulence hit, she reached instinctively for the armrest, but her hand brushed his instead. His fingers were warm. Too warm. He froze, staring at her hand like it had just spoken. She pulled away immediately. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "He gets scared during takeoff." The man's jaw tightened. "Babies don't get scared," he said quietly, voice deep and low. "They sense fear in others." She blinked. "Excuse me?" He looked out the window, his tone sharp. "You haven't slept in days. I can smell exhaustion." She frowned, unsettled. "Smell?" He didn't respond. She wanted to move seats, but her son had finally fallen asleep, head resting on her shoulder, small fingers clutching her scarf. So she stayed. Minutes stretched into hours. The stranger's presence filled the space like static, heavy, but not cruel. At some point, as exhaustion won, her head drifted sideways. She tried to stay upright. She failed, and her cheek landed softly against his shoulder. He should have moved. He didn't. For the first time in years, Damien Kyle, billionaire alpha of Kyle Industries, heir to the Silver Moon Pack, didn't feel the urge to push someone away. Instead, he sat there, motionless, while the rhythm of her breathing brushed his neck. He glanced down, the baby stirred, tiny hand brushing his sleeve, and suddenly everything inside him went still. His wolf, the creature he'd caged behind decades of control, growled softly beneath his skin. "Mine." He inhaled sharply, the scent flooding him. Vanilla and rain. Familiar. Impossible. He shut his laptop, clenched his fist, and tried to silence the instinct clawing up his spine. But the harder he fought it, the louder it became. The scent was calling him, the kind that only came once in a lifetime, the scent of a mate. His pulse quickened. The stewardess passed by asking, "Sir, would you like a drink?" His voice came out rougher than he intended. No. The baby shifted again, and Damien's eyes glowed faintly gold before he forced them back to human brown. He'd mastered control. Until tonight. Amara woke to warmth she didn't remember. The plane lights were dim now, passengers sleeping, engines humming softly like a lullaby. Her cheek was against something solid, his shoulder. Her breath caught. She jerked upright, mortified. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." He didn't look at her. "You were exhausted." His voice was calm, low. "It's fine." She blushed. "Still, I didn't mean to." "You needed rest," he interrupted. Then he turned toward her and she froze. His eyes, no longer just brown, but glinting gold in the cabin light, were watching her baby, who smiled in his sleep. "What's his name?" Damien asked quietly. "Eli," she said hesitantly. "He's beautiful." "Thank you," she whispered. "His father must be proud." She hesitated. "He's just gone." Damien's gaze softened for just a second, then darkened again. "Gone where?" "Just gone." Silence stretched between them, fragile as glass. Then the plane jolted through turbulence again. Her hand instinctively covered her baby's chest. Damien's fingers brushed hers, steady, grounding, protective. His wolf growled again. "Mate, heir, ours." He exhaled slowly, whispering so softly she almost didn't hear him. Fate has a cruel sense of humor. When the flight finally touched down, Amara gathered her things quickly, hoping to disappear into the crowd before he could see how flustered she really was. But as she stood to leave, she noticed something strange. A shimmer near her collarbone, like a faint scar glowing gold for a second before fading. She blinked. "Are you okay?" she asked without thinking. He looked up, his expression unreadable. "You should take care of your son. The world isn't kind to people like you." Her chest tightened. "People like me?" "Those who trust too easily." He stood up, towering over her, his scent sharp and clean, like cedar in stormlight. Then, before she could reply, he was gone, down the aisle, vanishing into first class before the rest of the passengers even unbuckled. Hours later, as she waited at baggage claim, she realized she'd left her baby's toy on the seat. She turned to go back, but froze. The same toy was already in the stroller. A folded business card lay beside it. Her heart pounded as she read the name embossed in silver foil. Damien Kyle, CEO, Kyle Industries. And beneath it, handwritten in dark ink, "You shouldn't fly alone again." The next morning, Amara stood in the arrivals hall, clutching Eli to her chest, scanning the crowd for the friend who was supposed to pick her up. But her phone stayed silent, her messages unread. Strangers brushed past, suits, perfume, noise, while she stood small and invisible. When a gust of cold air hit her, she pulled her baby closer and whispered, "We'll be okay, sweetheart. We always are." Yet even as she said it, she felt eyes on her, that same faint electricity she'd felt on the plane, sharp, almost tangible. She turned, half expecting to see him. Damien Kale, but he was gone. Only a chauffeur stood across the lobby, holding a sleek black sign with bold letters, "Miss Amara Wynn." Her breath caught. No one knew her name. The man met her gaze and nodded. "Mr. Carril sends his regards," he said. "He asked me to drive you." "What? No, that's not necessary," he insisted. The driver's tone left no room for argument. She hesitated, torn between pride and fear. But Eli stirred, fussing, and exhaustion won. "All right, just this once." The car was unlike anything she'd ever sat in. Black leather, soft lights, the faint scent of cedarwood. The driver said nothing, only handed her a sealed envelope with her name in elegant handwriting. Inside, a check, enough to cover months of rent, and a note written in the same sharp, deliberate script as before. "A gesture of gratitude for the company on the flight. Use it for the boy." Her heart pounded. Gratitude? He barely spoke 10 words to her, yet her fingers trembled as she read the last line. "You carry a scent I haven't smelled in years. Take care not to lose it." She blinked, confused. What kind of message was that? When she looked up, the city skyline loomed, steel, glass, and a sky heavy with clouds. Somewhere among those towers was the man who had written that note. the man whose eyes had turned gold. She shook her head. "It doesn't matter," she whispered to Eli. "We'll stay invisible." But in a world where wolves ruled from boardrooms and shadows, invisibility was impossible once the Alpha had scented you. Across town, Damien Kale stood in his penthouse office overlooking the city. The morning light hit the glass walls, cold and sharp. His assistant entered quietly. "Sir, your meeting with the North Ridge investors is in 15 minutes. Cancel it." His tone left no room for questions. The assistant hesitated. "But sir, they flew in from—" "I said cancel it." She nodded quickly and left. Damien pressed his palms against the glass, eyes distant. The scent still lingered, sweet, faint, maddening. He'd memorized it against his will. His wolf paced beneath his skin, restless. "You found her. You found us." "No," he muttered aloud. "It's impossible." His reflection flickered for a split second, and for that moment, he didn't see a man in a suit. He saw golden eyes staring back. He remembered the child's scent, a whisper of his own bloodline. His breath hitched. Could it be? He shook his head, forcing logic to return. "She's human," he said to the empty room, but the silence that answered him felt like laughter. That night, Amara checked into a small motel on the city's edge. One room, one crib, one prayer. The walls were thin. The neon sign outside flickered through the curtains. She laid Eli down, brushing a kiss over his forehead. "You did so well. We made it." But as she turned off the lamp, something cold stirred in the air. A hum, low, familiar, primal. Eli whimpered in his sleep, tiny hands grasping the air. Then she heard it, a voice, not human, not spoken, but inside her head. "Do you know who he is?" She froze. Her pulse thundered. "Who said that?" Silence. The wind howled through the cracks in the window. Then again, soft, closer. "He's not just a man. He's the one the moon cursed, and you just woke him." Amara backed away from the crib, trembling. "What are you talking about?" No answer. Only Eli's calm breathing. She sank onto the bed, heart racing, whispering to herself, "You're just tired. You're imagining things." But deep down, she knew the truth. Something had shifted on that flight, and whatever it wasn't done with her yet. Miles away, under the same restless moon, Damien stood barefoot on the balcony of his penthouse, his control slipping. His breathing came uneven, his hands shaking. For years he'd suppressed the wolf within him, through medicine, through silence, through sheer will. But the beast was awake now, and it was hungry. He clenched his jaw. "She's human," he growled. His voice cracked between words and growls. The air thickened, vibrating with power. His reflection in the glass changed, his eyes gold, fangs threatening to show. Then, in the midst of his chaos, a sound cut through the madness. A baby's cry. Faint, distant, but clear as daylight. He froze, heart pounding. His wolf went still. Our blood. Our air. His claws retracted. The glow faded from his eyes, replaced by something new. Fear. He whispered to the night, "No, that's not possible. She can't be." But the answer came in the wind. Her scent carried through the city like a memory, refusing to die. And Damien Kale, Alpha King in disguise, realized something terrifying. The woman and child from the flight weren't strangers. They were the reason his wolf had never truly slept. The city didn't sleep. It pulsed, a heartbeat of light and noise that swallowed Amara whole the moment she stepped onto the sidewalk. Cars roared past like restless beasts. Billboards flashed faces she'd never seen, names she'd never afford. She tightened her grip on Eli's carrier, whispering, "Welcome to Silverstone, baby, the city of dreams, and rent I can't pay." A cold wind swept through the alley, carrying the faint scent of rain and iron. She shivered. The streets here had teeth, and they were already watching her. She didn't know that above those glittering towers, from a glass penthouse high enough to touch the clouds, someone was watching too. Damien Kale stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear. "You found her?" he asked. "Yes, Alpha," came the quiet reply. "She's in the East District, near the harbor." "Keep your distance," Damien said. "No one approaches her, not yet." He ended the call and exhaled slowly, staring down at the maze of streets. He told himself it wasn't obsession, just curiosity. But the wolf pacing inside him knew better. Mate. Amara found a small apartment above a closed flower shop. The rent was low enough to raise suspicion, but she didn't have the luxury of being picky. The landlady, an older woman with silver hair and eyes too sharp for her age, handed her the keys. "Keep your curtains closed after midnight," she said. "Light attracts attention." Amara smiles politely, thinking it was just another city superstition. That night, she unpacked what little she owned, a few clothes, some formula, and a framed photo of her mother. She stared at it and whispered, "I did it, Mama. We made it out." Eli cooed softly, tiny fingers brushing her cheek. But when the wind rattled the window, he suddenly stiffened, his bright eyes focusing on something behind her. Amara turned. Nothing. Just shadows. Still, she locked the door, heart racing. Then she noticed something on the windowsill. A single black feather. No bird, no open window. Just the feather, and the faint echo of a growl outside that faded as quickly as it came. The next morning, she took Eli to the city park. Children laughed, pigeons scattered, and for the first time in days, she breathed without fear. But halfway through feeding Eli, she froze. Across the fountain stood a man in a dark coat, his face half hidden behind sunglasses. She wouldn't have looked twice, except he'd been on her flight. She remembered him clearly. Aisle seat, 3 rows ahead, reading nothing, watching everything. He turned away when their eyes met. Her stomach dropped. "It's just coincidence," she told herself. Big city, lots of people. But when she left the park, he followed, always far enough to look harmless, close enough to make her heart race. She ducked into a cafe, ordered tea she couldn't afford, and sat by the window. The man lingered outside, pretending to make a call. Then, a shadow blocked the light beside her. "He won't bother you anymore," a deep voice said. She looked up, and her breath caught. Damien Kale. His presence filled the room before he even sat down. Amara's words tangled. Why are you here?" Damien's expression was unreadable. "You were being followed," he said simply. "I don't let that happen." "You were watching me?" she asked. He didn't deny it. "You shouldn't be alone in this city." "You don't even know me." "I know enough," he said, his gaze flicking briefly to Eli. The baby smiled, reaching toward him like he recognized the man. Damien froze. For a heartbeat, everything in the cafe went silent, even the clatter of cups, even the air. A faint hum passed through the floor, almost like a vibration. Then softly, Eli giggled. Damien's jaw clenched. "He shouldn't be able to sense me," he muttered under his breath. "Sense you?" Amara asked. He looked up sharply. "You wouldn't understand." "Try me," she shot back. For the first time, a crack of surprise crossed his perfect composure. Then quietly, almost to himself, he said, "You smell like moonlight. And that child, he smells like me." Amara's heart hammered. "What kind of thing to say is that?" she whispered. "Are you drunk?" "No," he said calmly, too calmly. "I'm a lot of things.
Drunk isn't one of them. He stood, his chair scraping softly against the floor. You should come with me. Excuse me? For your safety. You've been noticed. Noticed by who? He hesitated, then leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. There are things in this city that hunt scent, not blood, and yours is calling to them. His eyes flashed gold for a half second, enough for her to see, enough for her to stop breathing. You're not human, he finished. He smiled faintly. No, not when it comes to you. He dropped a card on the table, the same one she'd found on the plane, and walked away, leaving her frozen in place. When she finally looked down, she saw a note written beneath his name. Just 5 words, but enough to change everything.
That night, Amara couldn't sleep. Damien's words echoed through her head like thunder that refused to fade. You're not safe anymore, Louna. She'd heard many names in her life. Daughter, mother, poor girl, but never that one. Louna. The word clung to her chest like static. Her baby, Eli, slept soundly beside her, his tiny chest rising and falling in perfect rhythm. She brushed a hand through his curls and whispered, "We'll be okay, I promise." But even as she said it, something deep inside her pulsed, like the faint echo of a heartbeat that wasn't hers. At midnight, she heard a sound outside her window. Not footsteps. A growl. Low, guttural, and close. She froze, clutching her son. Then, silence. A knock followed. Gentle, deliberate. 3 times. Her pulse spiked. Slowly, she opened the door. Damien Kyle stood there in the rain, no umbrella, his suit soaked, but his eyes burning gold. "You shouldn't open doors at night," he said quietly, stepping inside before she could answer. His presence filled the room instantly. Too tall, too sure, too still. He looked around like he could smell the air itself. "They were here," he muttered. "Who?" she asked, trembling. "Wolves, not mine." She stared at him. "You're not making sense. You wouldn't believe me if I did." "Try me." He met her eyes, something ancient flickering behind his calm. "You think I found you by accident? That flight wasn't a chance, Amara. You were on my path long before you boarded." "How do you know my name?" she demanded. He smiled faintly, not cruelly, sadly. "Because I knew your scent before I knew your face." Her heart raced. "You're insane." "Maybe," he said softly, stepping closer, "but insanity doesn't make me wrong." He looked at Eli, sleeping peacefully. "That child carries something impossible. His scent is mine, but his soul is yours." Amara backed away, shaking her head. "You're scaring me." "Good," he said. "Fear keeps you alive." "What do you want from me?" "Answers," he said simply. "Ones only you can give." "I don't even know what you're talking about." "Then let me explain," he said, voice low, almost reverent. "You smell like the bond my kind calls the tether. When an alpha loses his mate, the moon gives one chance, a second bond, reborn through fate. I buried my first bond years ago. She was pregnant when she died." His eyes darkened. "That child was never found." Amara's lips parted in disbelief. "You think my son?" "No. I know." His voice cracked for the first time. "When I held him on that flight, my wolf recognized him. That's why he smiled. Wolves don't forget their blood." Her knees weakened. "This is crazy," she whispered. "You're saying my baby is the heir I buried," he said, pain flickering behind his eyes. The room spun. "That's not possible," she said. "I found Eli at an orphanage in Maplewood. He's adopted." Damien's jaw tightened. "Where?" "A small home run by nuns." "And who left him there?" "They said his mother died in childbirth. No father on record." He stared at her like she'd just spoken an ancient prophecy. "Maplewood," he repeated. "That's where she was last seen." "Who?" "My mate." His voice dropped to a whisper,
breaking for the first time. Her name was Lyra. The name sent a shiver through the air, soft, haunting. Amara swallowed hard. You think I'm her? He shook his head. No, you're not her. But the bond between us says you carry what she left behind. What does that even mean? It means the moon doesn't return love the same way twice. Sometimes it gives you a chance to finish what death interrupted. The wind howled outside, rattling the shutters. Damien stepped back, giving her space, though his gaze never wavered. You don't have to believe me, but they will come for him. The packs that wanted my heir dead never stopped hunting. Amara looked down at Eli, sleeping like innocence itself, unaware that his life had just become the center of a war. So what do I do? You stay hidden. I'll handle the rest. Why help me? Because he's mine, Damien said simply, and because the bond that ties you to him ties me to you. What bond? She whispered. He stepped closer until the air between them felt electric, the kind that makes even monsters fall to their knees. His voice drops lower. Sleep tonight, Amara. I'll stand guard outside your door. And for the first time, she didn't know what terrified her more, what hunted her outside, or the man willing to protect her inside. Morning sunlight filtered through the thin motel curtains, painting gold lines across the floor. Amara hadn't slept. Damien's words, "You're not safe anymore, Louna," replayed in her mind like a heartbeat. He was still outside. She knew it. She could feel him. His energy pressed against the air, not violent, but commanding, like a storm waiting to be called. She peeked through the curtain. He sat in his black car, motionless, his eyes hidden behind tinted glass. For a man who ruled a city of wolves and corporations, he looked impossibly still. You don't owe him anything, she whispered to herself. You've survived worse. But when she glanced at Eli, smiling in his sleep, her resolve cracked. If what Damien said was true, if danger really hunted them, then her pride could get them both killed. She gathered her courage, wrapped Eli in a blanket, and stepped outside. The air was sharp with the scent of rain and asphalt. Damien's head turned instantly, like he'd heard her heartbeat. We need to talk, she said. He opened the car door without a word. Inside, the air smelled like cedar and cold metal. He handed her a folder, thick, black, sealed with a gold emblem shaped like a crescent moon. What's this? She asked. Protection, he said simply. She opened it. Her eyes widened. Legal papers, contracts, property documents, all in her name. You bought me a house? She whispered. Not bought, transferred. Why? Because no one finds what belongs to me, he said quietly. The words sent a chill down her spine. I'm not yours, she said firmly. His lips curved slightly. Not yet. Then why are you doing this? She demanded. He leaned closer, his voice low and rough. Because if I don't, they'll take the boy. And if they take him, they'll use him to destroy everything I built. Her pulse quickened. Who are they? The ones who killed his mother, Damien said. The ones who will come for you next. Amara stared at him, anger and fear clashing in her chest. So, you're saying I have to hide while you fight your enemies? No, he said softly. You'll stay close to me. Close? My company compound is protected by the old code. No wolf crosses it without my permission. You mean your pack? Yes. She shook her head. You expect me to live with you? To raise Eli surrounded by wolves? You already are. Half this city belongs to them. To me. You just didn't know. She opened her mouth, but he continued, voice lower. You think I want this? I spent years building a human empire, so I'd never need to show what I really am. But you You broke that wall the moment you fell asleep on my shoulder. His gaze softened. The wolf woke up because of you, Amara. You didn't just save me that night. You called me back. Her breath caught, her throat tightening. For the first time, she saw something human in his eyes. Pain. Silence hung heavy. Damien looked away, jaw tight. He finally said, "You have two choices. Leave this city and vanish forever, or stay with me, where I can keep you alive." "That's not a choice," she whispered. "It is. One path leads to peace, the other leads to war. I can't promise safety without control." His tone was cold, but his eyes betrayed him. There was fear there, the kind only a man who'd lost everything once could feel. Amara looked down at the folder in her lap, her name on the deed, the check inside, the faint gold crest pressed into the paper. Everything about this screamed danger. But she thought of Eli, the way he smiled when Damien looked at him, like he knew something she didn't. "I'll stay," she said finally, voice steady but quiet. "For my son." Damien's eyes met hers. "Good," he said softly. "Then you should know one thing." "What?" "Once you step into my world, you can't leave it the same." That evening, the car stopped before towering iron gates crowned with silver wolves. Guards in suits stood silent as the gates opened, revealing the sprawling Kale estate, glass, stone, and shadow under a bleeding sunset. Amara's heart pounded as she stepped out, clutching Eli. "Welcome to your new home," he said, his tone unreadable. "It's not home," she said quietly. "It's survival." He turned to her, eyes glinting gold in the fading light. For now they're the same thing. She followed him inside. The marble floor reflected their silhouettes like twin ghosts, one dark, one light. Eli cooed softly in her arms, and for a moment, the alpha's expression softened. "He likes this place," he said. "He feels the bond." "Bond?" she asked. Damien's eyes met hers, steady and unyielding. "Between wolves, Louna, bonds are more than love. They're destiny." He stepped closer, voice like thunder wrapped in velvet. "And destiny has decided. You and I are far from over."
The Cahill estate was not what Amara expected. It wasn't warm, it wasn't beautiful, it was alive. Every hallway whispered, the marble floors seemed to hum with energy. Chandeliers hung like frozen lightning from high ceilings. Paintings of unfamiliar faces, regal, sharp-eyed, otherworldly, lined the walls. "Are these your ancestors?" she asked quietly. Damien glanced at the portraits. "Not mine," he said. "Theirs." "Theirs?" "The alphas before me. Wolves who ruled before business replaced blood." His voice carried a strange sadness. "I kept their house standing because if I didn't, the ghost would haunt me anyway." Amara looked around again. "It already feels like they do." He smirked faintly. "Good, you're paying attention." He led her upstairs, his movements precise and silent, like he'd memorized every sound the floor could make. When they reached her room, he opened the door gently. "You'll stay here. There's a guard at the end of the hall. If anyone comes near you without my permission, scream." "And if it's you?" she asked. His eyes glinted gold. "Then you don't need to." After Damien left, the silence was louder than noise. Amara laid Eli in a crib beside her bed. The room was too big, too quiet, the kind of quiet that made you hear things that weren't there. The fireplace flickered softly, throwing long shadows across the walls. On the dresser sat a silver comb, a mirror, and a locket that looked far too personal to belong to a guest room. She picked it up. Inside was a photograph. A woman with dark hair, fierce eyes, and a smile that looked heartbreakingly familiar. Lyra. Damien's first mate, the one he said was dead. Amara's chest tightened. She set the locket down carefully, but as soon as it touched the word, a whisper brushed her ear. So faint she thought it was her imagination. "He stole dreams of me." She froze, spinning around. The room was empty. Only the fire moved. Eli stirred in his sleep, whimpering softly. "It's okay, baby. It's just an old house." But deep down, she wasn't sure she believed that. Later that night, she wandered into the hallway. The moonlight spilled through tall windows, painting the floor in silver stripes. Somewhere in the distance, music played, low, haunting, like a lullaby sung by someone long gone. She followed it down the corridor until she reached a heavy oak door, slightly ajar. Voices murmured inside. She hesitated, then leaned closer. "She doesn't know yet," one man said. "She's human. She won't last." Damien's voice cut through, calm and commanding. "She will, because I said she will." "She's your mate, isn't she?" Silence. Then Damien's voice again, quiet, dangerous. "That's not your concern." Amara's heart pounded. Mate? The word echoed through her mind like thunder. The door creaked and she stumbled back just in time before it opened. A man stepped out, tall, silver-haired, eyes sharp as ice. He stopped when he saw her. "You shouldn't wander," he said smoothly. "The Alpha doesn't like curiosity." "Who are you?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "I'm the Beta, the one who keeps the Alpha alive." His gaze slid to the locket chain still around her wrist. "Ah, so the house has started talking to you already." "The house?" she whispered. The Beta's smile didn't reach his eyes. "You smell her, don't you? The first Louna. Her presence clings to this place. To him." "That's cruel," Amara said, clutching her arms. "He lost someone he loved." "And you replaced her," he said coldly, "whether you meant it or not." "I didn't." "It doesn't matter," he interrupted. "The bond doesn't ask permission." His eyes glowed faintly. "You think you're safe here, human? You're not. The wolf in him wants you, yes, but the man, he's terrified of you. You remind him of what he couldn't save." He leaned closer. "So when you see the ghosts in the mirrors, don't scream. They're only here for him." Amara stepped back, heart racing. "You're wrong," she whispered. "Maybe," he said, straightening. "But if I'm not, then pray that your baby never cries under a full moon." He walked away, leaving her trembling in the empty corridor. The music had stopped. Only the wind answered her now. When she returned to her room, Eli was awake. Not crying, just staring toward the window, eyes wide, reflecting the moonlight. She lifted him gently. "You're okay," she murmured. But when she turned toward the glass, she froze. A shadow moved outside, tall, broad, standing just beyond the fence, watching. She blinked, and it was gone. Then a deep voice spoke behind her. "Don't move." She turned. Damien stood in the doorway, shirt half unbuttoned, eyes glowing faintly gold. "They were here again," he said quietly. "Wolves from the Black Ridge pack. I told you not to wander. This house has ears. It remembers pain." His gaze softened as he looked at Eli. "And now they know where to find him." Amara's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" He met her eyes and his voice was a whisper of thunder. "The war I've been avoiding for years just found its way back home." The night tore open with a sound like thunder, but it wasn't thunder. It was howling, deep, ancient, and near. Amara shot upright, heart pounding. The window rattled. Eli began to cry. She rushed to him, whispering, "Shh, it's okay, baby." But it wasn't okay. Not this time. The air itself felt wrong, heavy, electric, trembling with something alive and angry. From outside, she heard shouts, guards barking orders, footsteps pounding marble. Then a roar shook the house so hard the lights flickered. The door burst open and Damien stormed in, eyes burning gold. "Get away from the window," he commanded. She obeyed without thinking. "What's happening?" she cried. "They've come for him," Damien growled. "The Black Ridge Wolves." His voice wasn't human anymore. It was layered, human words wrapped in animal fury. "I thought you said this place was safe." "It was," he said darkly, "until one of them got inside." His nostrils flared. "They're already here." Before she could speak, the glass shattered. A massive black wolf lunged through the window, eyes red as embers, teeth bared. Amara screamed, shielding Eli. In a blur, Damien moved, faster than sight. His hand caught the wolf mid-air, slamming it into the wall with enough force to crack stone. "Mine," he snarled, voice shaking the floor. The creature lunged again, but Damien's body shifted, bones snapping, muscles stretching, gold light bursting beneath his skin. In seconds, the man was gone. In his place stood a wolf larger than any myth, fur silver white, eyes burning like molten gold. The Alpha. Amara froze, clutching her child as the two beasts clashed, claws, teeth, blood, fire. Damien roared, the sound echoing through the estate like a god waking from sleep. The black wolf faltered, bleeding, then fled through the broken window. Damien followed, leaping into the night. For a heartbeat, all was still, until she heard dozens of howls answer him from the forest. The courtyard below became chaos. From the balcony, Amara saw wolves of every color tearing through the gates. The guards fought, some shifting mid-battle, others firing silver bullets that flashed under the moonlight. Damien's silver wolf tore through enemies like a storm, each movement pure power and precision. He was beautiful and terrifying. Then she saw him falter. One of the attackers, larger, darker, slammed into him, driving him toward the fountain. Her breath caught, blood splattered across the marble, shining black in the moonlight. "No," she whispered. Without thinking, she ran. Through the hall, down the stairs, barefoot on cold stone. The beta, the silver-haired man she'd met before, caught her by the arm. "Are you insane?" he hissed. "You can't go out there." "He's bleeding," she shouted. "He's fighting for us." The beta's jaw clenched. "Then pray he wins, because if he dies, the boy dies too." "Why?" she cried. "Because their hearts beat on the same rhythm," he said grimly. "If one stops, the other will too." Outside, the battle raged. Damien staggered, blood streaking his fur, his breath ragged. The Alpha of Black Ridge, a hulking beast with scars like rivers, circled him, growling. "Still playing king among humans, Kale?" Damien bared his fangs. "Still hiding behind shadows, Rorik?" Their voices weren't words, but echoes of thought, primal, clear, ancient. "You've grown weak," Rorik sneered, "taken in humans, fathering bastards." Damien lunged, teeth sinking into the rival's throat. Blood sprayed across the fountain. "Touch them," he snarled aloud, "and I'll burn your pack to ash." Rorik laughed through his wounds. "You can't protect them forever. The council already knows about the child." Damien froze. "What did you say?" "They know the heir lives," Rorik hissed, "and they're coming for him next." Before Damien could finish him, Rorik shifted back to human and vanished into the smoke, leaving only a trail of blood and laughter behind. When the last wolf fled, the courtyard fell silent, except for the sound of crackling fires and shallow breaths. Amara rushed to Damien's side. He was kneeling, half-shifted, blood dripping from his arm. His eyes flicked up at her, wild, glowing. "You shouldn't be here," he growled weakly. "You're hurt," she said, kneeling beside him. "You're bleeding." "It's nothing."
It's not nothing, she snapped. You just took on an army. He managed a faint smile. You're brave for a human. I'm a mother, she said. There's a difference. He laughed once, rough, genuine, then winced. You have no idea what you stepped into. Then tell me, she whispered, what's coming? His eyes softened, gold fading to brown. The Council of Alphas, he said quietly. They'll come for the boy. And you? They'll come for me too, he exhaled, blood staining his lips. But this time, I'm not fighting alone. He reached for her hand, warm, trembling, real. You stay, he murmured, voice breaking, and I'll make sure no one ever touches you or our son again.
By dawn, the Kale estate was unrecognizable. Marble floors stained with blood, shattered glass scattered like frost. Amara stood at the balcony, holding Eli, watching the medics tend to the wounded. The air still reeked of smoke and silver. Damien hadn't spoken since the fight. He stood at the far end of the courtyard, shirt torn, back to her, staring at the rising sun like it had betrayed him. The silence between them was heavier than the chaos. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled. You said they'd come for him. Who are they, Damien? He turned slowly. His face was pale, eyes hollowed by exhaustion. The Council, he said. The ones who decide who's alpha and who's a threat. And Eli is a threat? She asked. To them, yes, he answered quietly. A child born of a dead Louna is an abomination in their laws. But he's innocent, she cried. To them, he said coldly, innocence doesn't matter. Power does. By noon, a black car arrived. 3 figures stepped out, alphas from rival packs, draped in long coats and arrogance. The air bent around them. Even the guards lowered their eyes. Damien met them at the door. Kale, one of them said smoothly, you broke protocol. Again. I broke nothing, Damien replied. You broke silence. Your war spilled onto neutral ground. Humans heard the howls. You know what that means. Damien's jaw tightened. Handle your politics elsewhere. You think this is politics? Another alpha, tall, pale, with eyes like glass, stepped forward. You sheltered a forbidden heir. The council demands answers. Amara watched from the stairs, heart pounding. When their eyes flicked toward her, Damien moved instantly, stepping between them. She's under my protection. She's human, one sneered. For now, Damien said, his tone a warning. The words sent a ripple through the room. For the first time, Amara realized even he didn't know what she truly was. The council presented their ultimatum. By the next full moon, the glass-eyed alpha said, you will bring the child before us. We'll test his blood. If he's pure Kale, he stays. If not, his smirk cut like a blade. Damien's voice dropped. The law doesn't apply to my bloodline. It applies to everyone, they replied in unison, their power vibrating through the room like thunder. Damien's wolf stirred, his eyes flashing gold. The air thickened. Careful, one hissed. You wouldn't survive war with the council. Damien leaned forward, his voice pure alpha command. If you touch what's mine, you won't survive me. The 3 men stiffened, but said nothing more. Then, as they turned to leave, the oldest among them paused. His gaze lingered on Amara. You've been marked by the moon, girl. You think you're human, but you're not. The curse will reveal itself soon. And just like that, they were gone, leaving silence and dread behind. That night, Amara sat by the fire,
Eli asleep in her arms. Damien stood at the window, shirtless, bandaged, his silhouette sharp against the moonlight. What did he mean about me? He didn't answer at first. The council doesn't speak idly, he said finally. If they saw something in you, it means it's already begun. What's begun? The tether, the bond between Alpha and Louna. It manifests through dreams, pain, or blood. I don't understand, she said. You will, he whispered, when the moon decides. He turned toward her, his gaze softening. You saved me on that flight, he said. You didn't know who I was, and you didn't care. That's why the moon chose you. Chose me for what? She asked, voice trembling. To heal what I broke, he said quietly, and to finish what started when she died. The fire crackled between them, golden and quiet. Amara traced the edge of Eli's blanket, trying to calm the storm in her chest. You think I'm part of your destiny? She asked. No, he said softly. I think you are my destiny. He stepped closer, eyes glowing faintly. But destiny is cruel, Amara. It doesn't ask permission. The tension in the air thickened. Fear, longing, fate. If I'm not human, then what am I? He reached out, brushing a stray tear from her cheek. You're the reason my wolf still listens to me, and the reason I'll defy every law they've written. His touch lingered for a heartbeat longer. Then he turned away. Rest. Tomorrow, we prepare to leave. Leave? For the North Peaks, where the moon first cursed my family, and where we might just find a way to break it.
The journey to the northern peaks took 3 days. Each mile stretched thinner than the air around them. The city faded behind, replaced by forests that whispered like memory and snow that fell with purpose. Damien drove in silence, eyes fixed ahead, while Amara watched mountains rise like teeth on the horizon. Eli slept peacefully in the back seat, untouched by the tension that filled the car. When they crossed into the northern border, the temperature dropped suddenly, sharp, biting, alive. Where are we? She whispered. The land where it began, Damien said softly, where the moon cursed my line. She stared at the white expanse before them. Cursed you for what? He exhaled, his breath fogging the glass. For loving her too much. Lyra? No, he said quietly. The one before her. His eyes glinted gold for a second. My blood has never belonged to one woman. It belongs to the moon. And the moon never forgives. They arrived at dusk. A forgotten monastery sat perched on a cliff, its spires reaching toward a bruised sky. Wolves howled in the distance. Not enemies, not allies, just witnesses. Inside, the air smelled of ash and age. Ancient runes covered the walls, their glow faint but alive. Amara traced one with her fingers, feeling it pulse like a heartbeat. What does it say? She asked. Damien's voice echoed softly through the stone halls. Blood will bind, moon will divide. Sounds like a warning, she murmured. It's a prophecy. It written when the first Alpha broke his oath to the moon. Since then, every Kael born carries the curse, to lose what he loves most. His gaze lingered on her, unreadable. And now, I'm next. Amara turned away, heart pounding. Then why bring me here? Because you're the only one who can break it. Why me? Because the curse wasn't meant for me, he whispered. It was meant for her, the Louna who would rise from mercy, not blood. That night, Amara dreamed. The monastery walls dissolved into a silver forest, bathed in moonlight so bright it hurt. A woman stood among the trees, hair like midnight, eyes like stars. You've come far, child. Who are you? Amara asked. The woman smiled sadly. I am what he lost, and what you are becoming. Lyra? The woman nodded once. He still mourns me,
But the moon doesn't repeat love. It rewrites it. What do you mean? Your kindness woke his wolf, Amara, but your blood woke the curse. My blood? You think you're human? Lyra's expression softened. You are not. You're the moon's echo, born from the same light that once bound him to me. That's why your son carries both worlds in his veins. Amara's voice shook. Then what happens to us? You finish what I couldn't, Lyra said. You break him or you save him. The light flared and Amara awoke, gasping. Damien was already awake, sitting by the fire, staring into the flames like they were speaking to him. You saw her, didn't you? He asked without turning. Amara's breath caught. How did you? Because I felt it. Every time she appears, the mark burns. He lifted his sleeve. A crescent-shaped scar glowed faintly on his arm. What did she tell you? That the curse was never meant for you, Amara said softly. It was meant for me. He turned sharply. That's not possible. It is, she said. Lyra said I was the moon's echo. His eyes widened, something between awe and fear flickering there. Then it's true. The prophecy's final verse. What verse? She asked. He stood, pacing. The Louna reborn shall carry the child of two worlds. Her love will unmake the Alpha King, or restore him. He looked at her. That's you, Amara. And the boy? He's the bridge between blood and light. Outside, the wind began to howl, carrying with it a sound older than time. Damien stood at the doorway, the storm reflecting in his eyes. They'll come here. The council will follow the scent. Then we leave, she said. No, he replied. We end this here. He turned toward her, his expression softer now. When I met you on that flight, I thought fate was mocking me. A poor girl, a sleeping child, and a scent I couldn't forget. But now I know the truth. What truth? You weren't sent to save me, he said. You were sent to save what's left of me. He stepped closer, his hand brushing her cheek. Not possessive, but reverent. Whatever happens tomorrow, remember this. The moon doesn't curse the undeserving. His voice dropped to a whisper. It tests the one strong enough to love. And as the snowstorm raged outside, Amara realized dawn might never come the same again.
The storm lasted through the night, but by morning, silence fell over the northern peaks. Too deep, too still. Amara woke to an eerie glow filtering through the cracked windows. The air shimmered faintly, like it was alive. Eli stirred in her arms, eyes half open, pupils glowing faintly silver. Damien? She whispered. He was already at the window, unmoving. It started, he said. What started? His awakening. He turned to her, his expression unreadable, half awe, half terror. The blood of the moon is waking inside him. Before she could respond, the floorboards vibrated, softly at first, then violently. The old monastery groaned as dust fell from the rafters. He's calling to the moon, Damien murmured. And the moon is answering. Amara clutched Eli, who now stared straight at the window, his tiny hand reaching out as beams of light wrapped around his fingers. Make it stop, she cried. I can't, Damien whispered. He's not just our son, Amara. He's the bridge the prophecy warned about, the heir of two worlds. Outside, the horizon burned white, not with fire, but with power. Wolves across miles howled in unison, drawn by something older than command. Damien's eyes glowed gold as his wolf stirred restlessly beneath his skin. They can feel him, he said. Every pack in the north can. Then we have to hide, she said desperately. We can't hide from the moon, he replied. It sees everything. Eli suddenly cried, not in fear, but in pain. His little hands glowed brighter, veins pulsing silver. The air rippled, the stone walls around them cracked. Damien reached for them, but a blast of energy sent him flying backward. Eli! Amara screamed.
The light from the child's body spread like wildfire, wrapping the room in a halo of brilliance. And then, silence. When the light faded, Eli was asleep again, but the mark of a crescent moon now glowed faintly over his heart. Damien staggered to his feet, trembling. "The mark of the true heir," he breathed. "The council will come for him tonight." By dusk, the monastery was surrounded. Black cars lined the mountain path, headlights cutting through the mist. The council had arrived, cloaked figures emerging from the fog, each carrying the authority of centuries. Damien stood at the gate, alone, unarmed, eyes burning with defiance. Amara watched from inside, clutching Eli. One of the councilmen raised his hand. "Alpha Kale, you've broken the oldest law, mixing bloodlines between human and wolf. He's no abomination. He's a miracle." "Then let the moon decide," he said coldly. "Surrender the child for the trial." "If you touch him," Damien said, stepping forward, "you'll answer to me." The man smiled thinly. "Then so be it." He lifted his staff, and the air split with sound. Lightning struck the courtyard, throwing Damien back. Amara screamed. The council's guards surged forward. It was no longer a negotiation. It was war. Damien shifted midair, his body exploding into silver fur and muscle. He hit the ground running, claws tearing into the first wave of attackers. But for every one he felled, 3 more replaced them. Amara hid behind a fallen pillar, whispering prayers to God she didn't believe in. Eli stirred again, his tiny hand glowing faintly even in sleep. Suddenly, the nearest guard froze mid-step, eyes wide, body rigid. Another followed, then another, as invisible energy rippled outward from the child. Damien turned, his wolf snarling, as he felt it, the bond. His wound stopped bleeding, his strength surged back. Amara's heart raced. "He's helping you," she whispered in disbelief. Damien met her eyes through the chaos, his voice echoing in her mind. "He's channeling me. He's one of us." But even as victory flickered, the council leader raised his staff once more, its runes glowing red. "Then let the air feel what it means to be chosen." A bolt of crimson light shot across the courtyard, striking the ground between Damien and Amara. The blast shattered the earth, flinging them apart. Amara hit the wall hard, shielding Eli with her body. The world spun and all sound vanished, just a deafening ring in her ears. Through the haze, she saw Damien crawling toward her, half-shifted, bleeding. "Amara!" he shouted, his voice breaking. She reached out, but before their hands could meet, a shadow stepped between them, the council leader, his eyes glowing like blood. "The moon has made her choice," he said coldly. "The Louna reborn will belong to us." He struck the ground with the staff again, and a chain of silver light coiled around Amara's wrist, dragging her away from Damien's reach. "No!" Damien roared, his voice echoing across the mountains. But it was too late. The light consumed them, mother and child, and when the storm cleared, they were gone. Damien fell to his knees, the full moon above him watching in silence, and whispered one vow that would echo through eternity. "I will find you, Louna, even if I have to tear heaven apart."
Amara awoke to silence, not peaceful silence, the kind that listens. Cold stone pressed against her back, the air heavy with iron and old magic. Chains of light wrapped around her wrists, glowing faintly, humming with energy that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Eli was gone. Panic surged through her. "Eli!" she cried, voice echoing through the chamber. No answer, only her own breath trembling in the cold. The walls shimmered faintly, covered in runes that burned like moonlight. A door creaked open and a figure entered. Tall, cloaked, face hidden. "Where is my son?" Amara demanded. The figure stopped before her, lowering the hood. It was the council leader, the same man who chained her. "Safe," he said, "for now." "You have no right." "I have every right," he interrupted. "You carry the blood of the Louna reborn. Do you even know what that means?" She glared. It means you're afraid of me. His lips curved into a thin smile. No, it means you're the key. The key to what? She spat. He stepped closer, eyes glowing faintly red. To control the moon itself. Every alpha bows to its pull, except those who bond to the Louna. You, child, are the first Louna born outside the packs. Unbound, unclaimed, untrained. I don't belong to anyone, she said, not even your moon. His smile faded. You think that's strength. It's chaos. You broke the cycle when you birthed that boy. He's neither wolf nor human. He's the storm that ends both. Amara shook her head. You're wrong. Am I? He raised a hand, and the chains around her glowed brighter. Pain seared through her veins, white-hot, unending. Stop! She screamed. Then give me the child, he said. His blood completes the ritual. You'll kill him! No, the leader said softly. He'll ascend. He will become what the moon intended. A god. Her tears burned as she whispered, You call murder divinity. I call it balance, and by the next full moon, balance will be restored. Far away, beneath the shattered monastery, Damien stood before the ruins, his hands bleeding, his control gone. She's alive, he muttered. The beta, pale and grim, stood beside him. You don't know that. I feel her, Damien growled. His eyes glowed gold, power crackling in the air around him. They took her to the Sanctum. No alpha has entered those walls and lived. Then they'll make history tonight. Damien! Enough! His voice broke into a growl. They took my Louna, my heir, my mate. I warned them. He turned toward the horizon, where black storm clouds gathered unnaturally fast. Summon the pack. The beta hesitated. That's war. No, Damien said, his eyes turning fully gold. That's justice. The wind howled as if it recognized the alpha's rage. Across the northern woods, wolves lifted their heads one by one, answering a call they hadn't heard in centuries. The Alpha King had awakened. Back in the Sanctum, Amara lay trembling. The pain had subsided, but the air around her shimmered faintly. She could feel Eli somewhere near, faint, like a heart beyond the edge of hearing. Hold on, baby, she whispered. Then she heard it, a whisper not her own. You're stronger than you think. She froze. Who's there? The voice was soft, feminine, achingly familiar. Lyra. They chained my body, too, the voice said. But you carry my freedom. Why me? Because you're mercy reborn. The moon doesn't repeat love. It redeems it. Amara's tears fell silently. How do I fight them? You don't fight with fury, Lyra said. You fight with bond. Amara's hands glowed faintly where the chains touched her. The metal hissed and cracked. She gasped. Yes, Lyra whispered. Call his name. He'll hear you. Damien, she whispered. Nothing. She closed her eyes, heartbreaking, and said it again. Not with fear, but with love. Damien. The chains shattered. At that exact moment, miles away, Damien fell to his knees. Pain seared across his chest, the same pain that marked their bond. But beneath it was something else. A whisper. Her voice. Damien. His breath caught. She's calling me. The beta stepped back, wary. What did you do? Nothing, Damien said, his eyes blazing brighter than ever. The moon just changed its allegiance. He rose, power rippling through the air like a living thing. Lightning split the sky as he shifted mid-roar, first silver, eyes glowing with wrath. We ride now, he howled. Across the valley, hundreds of wolves answered, their howls shaking the earth.
In the sanctum, Amara lay trembling. The pain had subsided, but the air around her shimmered faintly. She could feel Eli somewhere near, faint, like a heartbeat on the edge of hearing. "Hold on, baby," she whispered. Then she heard it, a whisper not her own. "You're stronger than you think." She froze. "Who's there?" The voice was soft, feminine, achingly familiar. "Lyra." "They chain my body too," the voice said, "but you carry my freedom." "Why me?" "Because you're mercy reborn. The moon doesn't repeat love. It redeems it." Amara's tears fell silently. "How do I fight them?" "You don't fight with fury," Lyra said. "You fight with bond." Amara's hands glowed faintly where the chains touched her. The metal hissed and cracked. She gasped, "Yes." Lyra whispered, "Call his name. He'll hear you." "Damien," she whispered. Nothing. She closed her eyes, heart breaking, and said it again, not with fear, but with love. "Damien." The chains shattered. At that exact moment, miles away, Damien fell to his knees. Pain seared across his chest, the same pain that marked their bond. But beneath it was a whisper. Her voice. "Damien." His breath caught. "She's calling me." The beta stepped back wary. "What did you do?" "Nothing," Damien said, his eyes blazing brighter than ever. "The moon just changed its allegiance." He rolls, power rippling through the air like a living thing. Lightning split the sky as he shifted mid-roar, fur silver, eyes glowing with wrath. "We ride now," he howled. Across the valley, hundreds of wolves answered, their howls shaking the earth. In the sanctum, Amara stood barefoot among broken chains, the glow fading from her hands. For the first time, she wasn't afraid. She looked toward the moon and whispered, "If fate made me Louna, then it's about to regret it." The wind howled in response, carrying her words straight to the Alpha who was already coming for her, and this time, nothing in heaven or hell would stand in his way.
The mountains trembled before the army of wolves. From every pack loyal to the Kale bloodline they came, hundreds, their eyes glowing under the storm-torn sky. Damien stood at the front, shirtless, scarred, the mark of the Alpha King burning across his chest. His voice carried through the wind like thunder. "They took what's mine," he growled. "They chained my Louna. They touched my Heir." He raised his hand and lightning struck the peaks behind him. "Tonight, we end this." The wolves howled as one, their cries shaking the snow from the cliffs. The beta approached, his silver hair whipping in the wind. "The sanctum's walls are protected by moonfire," he warned. "No alpha has ever breached it." Damien's lips curled into a half smile. "Then we won't breach it," he said. "We'll burn it." His eyes glowed gold as the storm above answered his fury. And with one command his army moved, a wave of silver and shadow rolling through the dark toward destiny. Inside the sanctum, the council prepared for war. The leader stood at the center of the great hall, his staff pulsing red. "He's coming," one of the guards whispered. "Good," the leader said. "Let him." Chains of light encased the doors, pulsing stronger with every heartbeat. But in the lower chambers where Amara had been held, the air shimmered strangely. Her bare feet left glowing prints on the stone. Her eyes, once brown, now gleamed silver under the faint moonlight that leaked through the cracks. "He's close," she whispered. "I can feel him." Lyra's voice echoed faintly in her mind. When the bond calls, the moon must answer. Amara pressed her palms to the floor, and the chains that guarded the sanctum doors began to tremble. Above, the council leader felt it, her power cutting through his enchantments like fire through silk. "Impossible," he hissed. "She's still awake." The walls quaked again and distant thunder rolled. "No," said a voice from the storm outside. "She's already awake."
The first explosion tore through the sanctum gates, scattering light like glass. Wolves poured in, their howls echoing off the stone. Damien was the first through, his claws glowing gold, his wolf form larger than any creature they'd ever seen. He moved through the battlefield like vengeance made flesh. Silver blades shattered against his hide, magic crumbled under his roar. Every strike carried the fury of a lover wronged and a father enraged. "Where is she?" he growled. "Where is my Louna?" The beta fought beside him, cutting through the guards. "Lower levels," he shouted. "Follow the scent." Damien didn't need to. Her presence pulled him like gravity, each heartbeat leading him closer. But the council leader stepped forward, red light blazing from his staff. "You shouldn't have come, Kale. You're defying the moon itself." Damien's eyes burned brighter. "No," he said. "I'm rewriting it." Lightning struck the hall, blowing the ceiling open. Wind and snow poured in. Amara appeared in the doorway, her hair whipping wildly, eyes glowing with moonfire. The council leader turned in shock. "You can't." "I can," she said softly, stepping forward. "You think the moon's power belongs to you? It never did." She raised her hands and the chains of light that bound the hall snapped like threads. The runes on the floor burned white. "You don't control Louna, you serve her." The leader shouted an incantation, launching a bolt of red fire toward her. But Damien intercepted it, crashing through the smoke, tearing through the spell's energy. When the smoke cleared, the two stood side by side, the Alpha and the Louna, gold and silver light intertwining around them. "You wanted the heir of two worlds? Then face the parents who made him," Damien said coldly. The battle that followed was legendary. Moonlight and lightning collided, shattering the walls of the Sanctum. Wolves fought in shadows while power pulsed between Damien and Amara like the heartbeat of the earth. Together they moved as one, her moonfire cutting through magic, his claws tearing through the dark. The council fell one by one until only the leader remained. "You can't destroy me," he snarled. "The moon needs balance." Amara's voice was steady. "Then let me balance it." She pressed her palm to his chest. Light burst from her skin. Not fire, but pure radiance. The leader screamed as his form dissolved into dust, carried away by the wind. When silence fell, Damien turned to her, trembling. "What have you done?" he whispered. "I freed it," she said softly. "The curse, the bond, everything." She looked down at her hands, the glow fading slowly. "But power demands a price." "No," he said, stepping forward. "We'll face it together." "Damien." She smiled faintly, the moonlight soft on her skin. "The moon never gives without taking." And as the first dawn broke through the shattered ceiling, Amara fell into his arms, unconscious, glowing faintly like the last breath of a star. Silence. The kind that comes after too much pain. The sanctum was gone, its walls reduced to dust, its magic spent. The first light of dawn spilled across the ruins, catching on falling snow that sparkled like tears. Damien knelt in the rubble, holding Amara in his arms. Her skin glowed faintly, as if the moon had marked her one final time. "Amara," he whispered, brushing the hair from her face. "Open your eyes." She didn't. Her breathing was shallow, her pulse fading. Around them, wolves stood in stillness, the army that had once roared, now silent in mourning. The beta approached slowly. "The curse is broken," he said quietly. "The council's gone." Damien's eyes didn't move from her face. "And what good is victory," he said, voice breaking, "if it costs the only reason I wanted it?" The beta bowed his head. The moon took what it was owed. Damien clenched his jaw. "Then it will give her back." His golden eyes flickered dangerously bright. "I'll make it." He carried her into the forest, where the snow glowed silver beneath the rising sun. Every step echoed with grief. Wolves parted silently as he passed, bowing their heads. At the edge of a frozen lake, he laid her down on the ice, the same place where the first Alpha had been born under moonlight. "You gave me back my heart," he whispered. Now I'm giving you mine. He drew his claw across his palm, letting his blood fall onto the ice beside her. The lake rippled, not with water, but with light. Hear me, he growled, voice rising into the wind. I've obeyed your laws. I've carried your curse. But if you want balance, then take me instead. The wind howled louder. The moon, still faint in the dawn, shimmered in reply. Then a voice, soft and ancient, a female, filled the air. You would trade your crown for her breath? For her smile? You would give your life for her love? I already did. Silence. Then softly. Then let the bond choose. The light from the lake swirled around them, wrapping them in silver ribbons of energy. Damien felt it, her heart beat flickering against his chest, their souls pulling toward each other like magnets. The mark on his arm, the Alpha's crescent, glowed brighter than ever before. Amara's body rose slightly, suspended in the air, her hair flowing as though underwater. Amara, he whispered. Her eyes opened, silver and clear. You shouldn't have come, she said faintly. You broke the curse. Not without you, he said. You're not just my Louna, Amara. You're my soul. She smiled weakly. You were always too stubborn for the moon. The wind whipped around them, and the lake began to crack under the pressure of their power. If you stay, I'll fade, she whispered. The balance needs blood. Then it can take mine, she murmured, her hand touching his face. It won't, because the moon doesn't take what's already given willingly. The air grew still. Amara leaned forward, pressing her forehead against his. You are meant to rule, but you learned to love. That's what makes you different. I don't want to be different, he said, voice cracking. I just want you. Tears shimmered down her cheeks, silver like mercury. You already have me, she said softly. Every full moon, every storm, every heartbeat, I'll be there. She looked up at the faint moon in the sky and smiled. It's not a curse, Damien. It's a reminder. Of what? He asked brokenly. That even gods envy love. Her body began to glow again, the light spreading outward like dawn breaking inside the forest. No, he said, holding her tighter. Stay. I'm not leaving, she whispered, fading against his chest. I'm becoming. And with that, the light consumed her, rising like mist toward the sky, returning to the moon that had once cursed them both. The forest fell silent again. Snow drifted softly, covering her footprints, the lake still glowing faintly beneath the surface. Damien stood there, hollow but unbroken. The wolves gathered behind him, heads bowed. The beta approached quietly. She fulfilled the prophecy, he said. The Louna reborn brought balance. Damien turned, his eyes no longer gold, but pale silver, a reflection of her light. Balance isn't enough, he said. Peace means nothing if she isn't here to see it. The beta bowed his head. Maybe she is. Damien looked up. The moon, faint even in daylight, shimmered brighter for a moment, then dimmed. A whisper brushed his ear, soft as her voice. Always. He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his resolution was steel. Prepare the pack, he said. For what? The beta asked. Damien's gaze lingered on the horizon, where the moonlight still touched the snow. For a world worthy of her.
Days turned to weeks, and the snow began to melt over the northern peaks. The wolves rebuilt what the storm had destroyed, but Damien did not return to the city. He stayed by the lake, silent and still, guarding the place where the light had taken her. Every night, when the wind passed through the pines, he heard her voice, faint, soft, loving. You're not alone. And every time he whispered back, then why does it feel like I am? Eli, now walking, would wander to the frozen shore and press his small hand to the ice. Wherever he touched, light gloomed faintly beneath. The beta watched this in silence. "He's her child," he said one night. "No," Damien replied quietly. "He's her legacy." As the full moon rose again, silver and unblinking, the Alpha King fell to one knee, placing a hand over his heart. "You gave everything to save us," he murmured, "so I'll spend the rest of my life making sure the world remembers your name." The packs began to gather one by one. Wolves from rival territories who had once feared Kael now came in peace. They came not because of his power, but because of her story. The Lunary Born, they called her, who broke the moon's curse. Damien stood before them on the cliffs overlooking the valley, Eli in his arms. "We fought for survival," he told them, his voice steady, "but she fought for peace, and peace is harder to keep than war." The crowd fell silent. "The old ways are done," he continued. "No more council, no more kings. From this day, the wolves stand as one. Under the light she left behind." He raised his eyes to the sky. The moon glowed softly, and the snow reflected its light in the shape of a crescent. "Let her be our alpha now," he said, voice breaking. "The Louna above." The wolves bowed their heads. For the first time in centuries, no one howled. They prayed. That night, Damien returned to the lake alone. The air was calm, the stars endless. He placed Eli on the shore and whispered, "Your mother would have loved this view." The child giggled, pointing at the sky. The moonlight shimmered across the surface of the lake, and for a moment, the reflection changed. It wasn't just the moon. It was her. Amara, standing in the light, smiling. Damien froze, tears stinging his eyes. "Amara?" Her voice drifted to him like the wind itself. "You kept your promise." "Not enough," he said. "More than enough." Her reflection knelt beside the boy. "He's strong," she said softly. "Teach him love before power. That's how we end the curse forever." "How do I raise him without you?" he asked, his voice breaking. "You don't," she said gently. "You raise him with me, every sunrise, every moonrise, every time he laughs. I'll be there." The reflection faded, but the warmth stayed. Over the following years, stories spread across the realms of the Alpha who defied the council, of the Louna who became light, and the child who carried both human heart and wolf soul. Silverstone City, once ruled by power and greed, began to change. Damien rebuilt his company, not as an empire of wealth, but as a foundation that protected both worlds. Wolves and humans worked side by side. Eli grew quickly, his silver eyes a constant reminder of what love had built. At night, he would climb onto his father's lap and ask, "Did she love you?" And Damien would smile softly, "More than I deserved." "Will she ever come back?" "She never left," he would say. And every time, the moon outside their window would glow just a little brighter, as if agreeing. On the anniversary of the battle, Damien returned once more to the lake. The night was clear, the air still. He placed white flowers on the snow and whispered, "We built your dream, Louna." The wind stirred, brushing his cheek like a kiss. "And I kept mine," he said softly. "You asked me to love before power, and that's what I teach him every day." He looked up at the moon, its light full and gentle. The world finally knows peace. From the horizon, the first rays of dawn began to rise, painting the snow in gold and silver, two colors entwined like them. "Rest now," he whispered. "You've already done enough." The wind answered with the faintest whisper, "Never enough for love." He smiled, closed his eyes, and for the first time since losing her, the Alpha King felt at peace. The moon faded into morning, but her light, Her light stayed forever. 20 years later, the northern peaks no longer held the silence of sorrow, only the calm of memory. The forest had reclaimed the ruins of the Sanctum, wrapping its stone in green and silver. A new temple stood where the lake once froze, its walls engraved not with names of kings, but with a single word: Louna. Inside, Eli KL stood before the altar, tall, broad-shouldered, his eyes a perfect blend of his parents, one gold, one silver. His reflection in the glass showed both wolf and man, balanced, unbroken. "You'd be proud of him," came a voice behind him. The beta, now gray-haired, leaned against the doorway. "He leads the packs without fear. No wars, no walls. Just peace." Eli smiled faintly. "Peace isn't something we inherit," he said. "It's something we build every day." He turned toward the window where the dawn spilled across the valley. "And they built it with love." The beta nodded. "Your parents would have said the same." "They did," Eli whispered. "I hear them every night." Outside, the world had changed. Wolves no longer hid from humans. They worked side by side, rebuilding cities, protecting forests, raising children who grew up believing that difference was strength, not danger. Damien KL's portrait hung in the new Hall of Alphas, not as a ruler, but as a father, a teacher, a protector. Below it was Amara's, her eyes soft, her smile eternal, surrounded by words carved into stone. "Love is not the end of power. It is its beginning." Every full moon, the people gathered at the lake's edge, humans, wolves, and those between. They told the story of how a poor girl met an alpha on a flight, and how destiny began with one act of kindness. And every time, as the moonlight touched the water, the reflection shimmered. Two figures, standing hand in hand. The crowd would bow their heads, not out of fear, but out of gratitude. That night, Eli walked alone to the lake, just as his father once had. The moon hung high, full and golden. The air carried the faintest scent of rain and cedar, Damien's scent. "I did it. The world's at peace, just like you wanted." The wind shifted, and a voice, warm and familiar, brushed against his ear. "And just like she dreamed." Eli smiled, closing his eyes. "You're still watching, aren't you?" he asked softly. "Always." The moonlight rippled, and for an instant he saw them, his mother, glowing with silver light, and his father beside her, tall and proud, their hands entwined. They said nothing, but he didn't need words. He could feel it. Pride, love, and peace. As their figures faded, Eli whispered, "Rest now, mother, father. The world remembers." Years passed like gentle rain. The boy became a legend. Under his leadership, the packs united into one nation, not bound by blood, but by purpose. They called it Ilarion, the kingdom of two moons. Every child learned the story of the alpha who defied the gods and the woman who taught him mercy. Eli ruled from the same seat his father once refused, not as a king, but as a guardian. And each time he made a decision, he looked to the sky first. The moon always seemed to answer. When asked why he never took a mate, he simply smiled and said, "Because my heart already belongs to love itself." Those who knew the truth understood. He didn't need another Louna. He carried her light in his blood. On the 20th anniversary of their union, the people gathered beneath the silver sky. Wolves howled in harmony, and the moon, for the first time in history, glowed gold and silver together, two lights entwined. Eli stood before the crowd, hand pressed over his heart. "Tonight," he said, "we don't mourn what was lost. We celebrate what was found. Hope." He lifted his face to the sky. They were just two souls, lost in the dark, who found each other on a flight that changed the world.
The people cheered softly, some crying, some smiling. And as the night deepened, the moon broke through the clouds one last time, brighter than ever. Two silhouettes shimmered in its glow. The Alpha King and his Louna, watching from the heavens, side by side. The wind carried their final whisper across the world they built together. Love doesn't end. It evolves. And under that eternal light, their legacy lived on, not in crowns or wars, but in every heartbeat that still believed in love strong enough to move the moon.
Thank you for staying till the end. Please do well to like and subscribe to the channel, and also don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comment. It means a lot to me.